So this is another unscripted video. I had some coffee, my brain is going, I'm tired today, and Rainbow Six Siege recently got a zombies mode. Halo Wars 2 last year had a DLC, an expansion pack, actually an old school style expansion pack, that featured the Flood, more zombies returning. And then recently Metal Gear Survive, which also has zombies in it. And soon we're going to be getting State of Decay 2, which I'm very excited about, but it's a zombie game. So this video is going to be the first in a series of videos called Let's Talk About blah 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 blah. It's essentially an excuse for me to sort of ramble off the top of my head without a script or anything like that. Because as much as I do enjoy making the scripted videos, there are also some things that I do like to talk about that I don't really need a script for, because honestly it doesn't really need its kind of video, and I'd rather just explain it in a more formal way, a less kind of robotic and stiff way. But so Rainbow Six Siege's Outbreak mode I actually think is a lot of fun. And it's actually kind of reminded me of Halo in a lot of ways. A lot of the imagery is very similar. Obviously though, Outbreak opts for more of a coral, kind of like spiny, they almost look like sea urchins, the zombies. It's very, very cool. I like the art style a lot. It also reminds me a lot of, if you guys remember Call of Duty Ghosts Alien Extinction mode. Basically, the idea for Outbreak is that a satellite, a kind of a Soviet Union era satellite falls into New Mexico. It's containing a chimera virus. If you guys don't know what a chimera virus is, it's essentially this kind of unethical breeding of two different microorganisms. You're essentially manufacturing a virus by combining the worst parts of two different organisms. Like, for example, if you wanted to create something potentially apocalyptic, if you were some kind of bioterrorist, you could take a airborne virus that's super contagious and combine it with a virus that has like an almost 90% lethality rating to it. And then there you go, you've created something potentially apocalyptic if you release it into the public. And that's what a chimera virus is. It's where you're manufacturing it in the lab. But oh, I got a notification on my phone. Okay, but essentially Operation Outbreak in Rainbow Six Siege, you gotta get from point A to point B, and there's a variety of different objectives. There's 3, I think, actually, missions that you can do, and they're structured very similar to Left 4 Dead, where you kind of gotta get to a safe house, you close the safe house door, but because this is Rainbow Six Siege, and it was made with next-gen consoles in mind, you don't have the loading screen. So essentially, the little safe house where you gotta close the door, and then you open up a new door, it masks a loading screen. It deloads the previous area, loads in the next area, because, you know, that's video game magic. But it's very interesting how I think it highlights that if Halo wanted to do some kind of flood mode, I mean, it definitely could do it. The infected in Rainbow Six Siege act very similar to the Flood, in that they just kind of like do their own thing, wander around and stuff, and then when they see you, they go berserk. They also act very similar to the Left 4 Dead infected. Ultimately, this mode is just like Left 4 Dead if the Left 4 Dead zombies were sea urchins and they were chasing you. It's very creepy, though. I do like the atmosphere a lot. Instead of just walking around and moaning like standard zombies, like Romero-style zombies, these ones just kind of babble to themselves. It's very, very unnerving. Sometimes, because Rainbow Six Siege is done by Ubisoft, there are a host of bugs and glitches, and you just won't spawn in with any partners. There's no way to play the solo, but that didn't stop Ubisoft. So sometimes your partners will just crash, or the game will load you in solo anyways. And it's very creepy, the atmosphere, when you're just by yourself with your little flashlight and the mist is everywhere, and there's like these red glows from the spines as they're just reaching from the ground into the sky, cutting through buildings. They don't really care. Muffled in certain houses or echoing through the streets, you just hear the poor victims of the infection babbling to themselves, yelling about anything, yelling about divorces, yelling about, you know, their religion. Like, they're just talking, and it doesn't really even matter what they're talking about, because it's like broken up sentences where they get lost in a train of thought or something. It's very feverish, and you feel kind of bad for them. It's almost like they're lost in their own brain. And then when they see you, They freak out, the parasite within them reacts and armors them up. And then they come running at you, and as you shoot them, different parts of their body that you shoot begin to glow red and armor up as well. In fact, actually, that's the excuse for why there is the big boy, the kind of tank-like infected, is that the excuse for that is that's what happens when they tried using explosives against them, is because the parasite, it armors up and protects the host. All it did was create a big muscly boy. It's ultimately very creative. I happen to like the zombie genre a lot, even if the zombie genre is very ripe for exploitation. Not a lot of zombie games are creative, but when they're creative, they are very good. I'm a fan of Romero-style zombies, like very cheesy, very corny, walking zombies. I used to be a fan of running zombies, but I found that as I grow older, I like slow-moving zombies a lot more. I think that you can do a lot more stuff atmospherically with really slow-moving zombies, but dozens of them, like so many of them. And instead of having them snarling and stuff, which I think is just like boring, having them just moaning. I think that that's pretty creepy. Treyarch zombies for Call of Duty, I think that, I mean, at least before Black Ops 3, because that's the one that kind of made me go, great, zombies isn't fun anymore. I used to like Call of Duty Zombies mode, especially World at Wars, because it really played into the Romero-style campy, like, I think of Nacht der Untoten, which you get for beating the World at War campaign. That means Night of the Undead in German, and it feels like that. A full moon howling in the distance, mist everywhere, you're kind of in this abandoned shack with a few guns and shotguns and stuff, and you've got the zombies that are moaning and walking with their arms out, coming up, destroying barricades, getting in. It's like that old school horror that's a lot of fun, even if it is cheesy, and definitely it can be very atmospheric. As World at War showed, you know, it was kind of creepy seeing the zombies, their faces shrouded in shadow, their skin, it was almost like Uncanny Valley in that they look normal, they look, just the difference is they're very gray, they're very pale, and they've got the glowing yellow eyes that are wide open, and their mouths are dropped open as they're, you know, just and coming after you with their arms stretched out. It's scary. I just love how creative the industry can be sometimes. Far Cry 5 Season Pass trailer showed exactly what I liked, Romero-style zombies, and it looks amazingly corny. It's like graveyards, zombies with glowing eyes and mouths. It's just, oh, it's all that stuff that I love, that very atmospheric, very B-movie camp. And even when it comes to running zombies, there are a lot of video games that do the running zombies very well. I mean, in the running zombies side of the ring, you've got Left 4 Dead, Undead Nightmares expansion, which actually combined running zombies with the kind of classic Romero-era zombies. Running zombies, I think, are overplayed in that, like, definitely way too many people use running zombies because it's kind of like, I guess it's like the action movie style zombies where you can get very quick tension. Like, you don't really need to worry about building an atmosphere, building tension and stuff when you got running zombies. And that's not to slight running zombies at all. I mean, it's deliberate, and it's to those types of zombies' benefit, is that if you need a very fast-paced movie and stuff, throw in some running zombies, and then boom, you have, like, it's like Instamix. You don't need to worry about anything. Just add water, and boom, you instantly have a scary situation when you've got a ton of running zombies howling, trying to get at you, swarming and stuff. World War Z, the movie version, not the book version. The movie version, despite being so different from the book, I actually like. It's one of my favorite zombies movies, while also being able to freely admit that, yes, the story has a lot of problems. Halo's Flood, I also think, are one of the more creative takes on the zombie genre, where it kind of combined aliens with zombies, and I mean aliens as in the movie franchise Aliens. Bungie was not very secretive about the fact that they were heavily inspired by aliens when they were designing Halo Combat Evolved. Even in the first-person shooter sequence, I mean, your assault rifle is basically the alien's pulse rifle. You're kind of like, all the Marines look like Space Marines from the Aliens franchise. And then especially when you get to 343 Guilty Spark, that mission, and you see Marines being taken over by those little infection forms, or floodlings, as I call them. You know, I mean, in fact, the first thing that the Marines find in 343 Guilty Spark is they find an elite with his chest burst open, which is a not so subtle nod to Aliens. It's pretty cool, and the Flood I've always appreciated. This is going to be controversial. I'm not a fan of the Grave Mind. I think it's kind of dumb that the Flood are controlled by a wacky rhyming plant. I mean, obviously, as time has gone on, I've softened up to the idea of the Grave Mind. The books especially have made the Grave Mind a very, very interesting character and stuff, but initially with Halo 2, when that was kind of our first exposure to the Grave Mind, I thought it was kind of lame, because I always thought that the Flood were more scary when there was nothing humanizing about them. It was just these weird parasites, and the more of them that infected people, the more coordinated they got. They never talked to you. It was creepy. And then suddenly in Halo 2, you have the Grave Mind making truces with Master Chief and Arbiter, even if they got betrayed. It's the fact that, okay, now it's got a voice and a brain behind it that I thought was kind of lame. I always liked it better when it was just this force that you couldn't reason with. Which is actually Halo Wars 2's Awakening the Nightmare. That, I loved that take on the Flood, because I like that it didn't touch the Grave Mind. I mean, obviously a proto-Grave Mind was being built, but I like that we destroyed it before the Flood actually began to talk and rhyme and be wacky. I liked that the Flood in Halo Wars 2, they were scary. It was scary. It was, there was also a lot of, I talked to Jeremy Cook, the lead art director for Halo Wars 2, about the Flood in Awakening the Nightmare, because the scene where they kind of break out of High Charity's quarantine and they just start like flooding all over the place, and there's like tentacles everywhere and they're holding down the brutes, and I always thought that the abominations in that cutscene were super creepy, because it was like, they have arms, they have legs, but you can't see a face, it's like, it's creepy in that it doesn't have a face. You can't see the face of your attacker. It's just like this creepy thing that's like slithering around and stuff, and it's got tentacles, and it's like holding and pinning them down as the infection forms take over. It's very, there's a lot of like violation and invasion of personal space about the Flood in Halo Wars 2, and I talked to Jeremy about it, and he was like, basically, yeah, that's the point. And obviously he didn't use the R word, but it was basically like, yeah, you're being violated. They're invading your personal space. They're not respecting you. They're crawling and slithering all over you, and when they're not doing that, they're holding you down as you're struggling so that you can be violated by other ones. Guys, what kind of zombies games do you like? And what kind of zombies games would you recommend to me? And even for the people who are sick to death of zombies, is there that one zombies game that you do actually think is really creative? And it doesn't need to matter how popular it is, whether it's liked, disliked by people. If you think it's kind of like this little nugget that only you seem to have noticed, and you enjoy it, you come back to it from time to time, or you just have fond memories of it, let me know in the comments section. I'm always up for good zombies games, even if the majority of them aren't so good. Yeah, just let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to suggest to me. Hopefully we can do a couple more of these if you guys want to hear some more of my just ramblings, my thoughts on things. I'll see you guys on the next video.